Good morning, everyone. This is Mike Dutter with the National Weather Service in Wakefield, filling in for Katie this morning. She's on other conference calls this morning, so I will be doing the briefing for you all today. So, thanks for joining, and just wanted to give you the latest update on the storm. Everything is still on track for a significant storm to impact almost the entire Commonwealth. This is actually the latest radar, and what I wanted to show you and make you aware of, you can see that there's already a lot of these radar echoes that are starting to move into, especially the western, southwestern and western part of the Commonwealth, and even into central Virginia. These are all precipitation aloft mostly, and even though we picked that up on radar, most of this is not reaching the ground, and we're still not expecting the steady snow to arrive until later this afternoon across the western part of the Commonwealth, and then after really into the evening hours across the eastern part of the Commonwealth. And you can see really the bulk of the decent snow, and these numbers on here are visibilities, is really still back into Tennessee and Kentucky, where you see these 1 to 2 mile visibility. So there might be a couple brief snow showers over the western part of the state, but again, the more widespread stuff, snow is still not going to start until later this afternoon or this evening. So you're going to see these precipitation echoes likely expand through the day, but again, that's because it's fighting off a lot of dry air at the surface. So let's go ahead and get into the briefing. Again, not much has changed since yesterday's call with Katie with regards to the warnings. In fact, nothing has changed. The whole Commonwealth is under a winter storm warning through later tomorrow and into Monday even for all types of precipitation, starting as snow, changing over to sleet, and then freezing rain for much of the Commonwealth. That we do have cold weather advisories in effect still this morning. In fact, we had to extend them a little bit because we still are seeing some wind chills close to zero, if not below zero, still this morning. We're entrenched in this Arctic air mass right now, and so temperatures are not going to warm up much, but still we're expecting those to expire by noon today. As for the forecast itself for the storm, the snow accumulation forecast remains very similar. We have decreased the ice accumulation ever so slightly, but damaging ice is still expected, as I'll show you in a second. And then we have included some snow rate graphics in the briefing. So this is the quick overview of the threats over the next few days. And again, I'll just show this really quick and get into more details. But really, overnight tonight into Sunday is the main time period for those significant impacts. Again, you saw this graph already as well. The winter storm warning again from starting this afternoon out west. And then later this afternoon and this evening over the east, and extending again through Monday afternoon. The precipitation is going to end probably by Monday morning, but we're still thinking there could be impacts through Monday afternoon due to that increasing wind, as well as the ice on the trees and power lines could cause additional trees and power lines to be down on Wednesday, even though the precipitation will have ended. So here's the latest snowfall forecast for the Commonwealth, and this has not changed much at all since yesterday. We've maybe decreased snow amounts a little bit along in central Virginia, especially the Richmond metro. But again, most of this has remained very similar. 8 to 12 to locally 13 or 14 inches across the Shenandoah, Northern Virginia. And then tapering off to 6 to 9 inches, north of 64, Charlottesville, to the northern neck, and then tapering off across south of Richmond to generally 1 to 3 inches, closer to the North Carolina border. This area down here is going to be the first tonight to see that changeover or mixed or changeover to sleet, and then eventually freezing rain by Sunday. Uh, so a lot of these areas down here, especially closer to the border, much of this accumulation will be sleet, not so much snow. You could see 1 to 3 inches of sleet, really, this whole region south of 64, which is included in this event storm total snow accumulation map. But still, you're going to see, several inches of snow and then potentially several inches of sleet as well, especially as you get into central Virginia. Now, this is the snow character at the onset of the snow. Again, this hasn't changed much since yesterday. We're going to have that fluffier, or at least drier snow, maybe not fluffier, but a little bit drier snow at the onset this evening. And then quickly changing over to a drier snow overnight, especially, or wetter snow, especially across the southern tier of the state. Still stay a little bit drier up north as it's going to stay snow longer up there, really right through Sunday, up in northern Virginia. And then on Sunday, we don't have a graphic for this. Eventually, where it is snowing, it's going to be very wet and heavy. And really, by Sunday afternoon, the snow will be really confined to just mostly the northern third of Virginia at that point. Now, these are new. These are some snow rate graphics for later this afternoon through this evening, and then overnight. Notice that the snow just gets started this afternoon over the western part of the state, but once it starts snowing, it's going to start to snow fairly rapidly, and it could become locally moderate to heavy at times. You can notice this evening, especially, most of the Commonwealth has, potentially a ½ inch to 3/4 inch of an inch an hour snowfall rates at times. Some localized pockets overnight, this evening and overnight, could see 1 inch per hour snowfall rates. Certainly couldn't rule that out under some of the heavier bands, especially along the I-81 corridor. And this is the snow rate through early Sunday. Again, these snow rates to the south have decreased, and that's because of the sleet moving in. But again, overnight tonight into the morning on Sunday, the rates in the northern part of the state will continue to be moderate to locally heavy at times, right through sunrise tomorrow morning. So again, that's sort of how the snow rates are going to look over the next 24 hours or so. So here's our ice forecast for the event, and this hasn't changed much either. Again, we're still looking at a prolonged freezing rain event, expecting from as early as tomorrow morning, really right through late Sunday night into Monday morning. In these red areas here are where we're expecting ice accumulations of at least 1/4 inch or more. And in these darker reds, this is where we're expecting accumulations of a ½ inch or locally higher. And so you can see we have this one area over along the 95, from south of Richmond, along the 95 and 85 corridors. And then there's some pockets of locally higher amounts as well out over Southwest Virginia. Those are more on the ridges, but again, don't be aware of those. And again, the main emphasis of this is that this is going to be, again, mainly tomorrow into tomorrow night, and conditions are going to really become treacherous very quickly tomorrow, because again, temperatures are still going to be in the 20s, but especially in these red areas, these areas along and west of I-95, they're going to stay in the 20s through the day. And so any rain that does fall is going to immediately freeze on surfaces. And with that being said, a ½ inch of ice or even 1/4 inch of ice will cause, tree damage, power outages. And with the amount of ice combined with potentially even more the wind and additional down trees and power lines on Monday due to the wind, these power outages could last several days. Again, this is just the zoomed in look. Again, into Southwest Virginia. I just wanted to, you probably noticed these little purple areas here. Again, just wanted to tell you, these are on the ridges here and on, on the slopes. If it occurs, it will be localized. Most of the area will see up to maybe a ½ inch of ice, but there could be locally higher amounts up to 3/4 of an inch. And just wanted to show you the ice probabilities. This is still somewhat the most uncertain part of the forecast still. There's still, we're good 50% probability of at least a ½ inch across, central Virginia and also over parts of Southwest Virginia. But I did want to emphasize that there is still about a 1 in 5 chance, 1 in 5, 20% probability of seeing a ½ inch of ice. Again, along that similar, in the Piedmont, south of Richmond, areas, west of I-95. And again, some of these localized pockets of higher probabilities of 3/4 of an inch across the southwestern part of the state as well. So again, this is probably still the most uncertain part of the forecast is the ice. Ice is one of the hardest things we can forecast, the most challenging. Stay tuned. These amounts could go up or down still throughout and could end up being slightly higher or slightly lower than what we're forecasting right now. So stay tuned. But again, even if we see the exact amounts that I was forecasting, that we're forecasting, that will still be very significant and very dangerous and damaging to the area. Just wanted to reiterate the wind impacts. These have actually come up a little bit, so that could even exaggerate the impacts even more on Monday. We could see some gusts, especially over open areas of 30 to 35 miles per hour. Most areas will be 20 to 30 miles an hour, but there could be some higher gusts. But again, that heavy ice on the trees and power lines combined with these wind could exaggerate the tree and power line damage even on Monday. Onset time here, again, this hasn't changed much. We slowed it up maybe slightly. We're looking at, again, this afternoon over the western part of the state, the central part. Most likely the central part of the Commonwealth won't see accumulating snow until around dark or soon after. But again, once it starts snowing steadily, it will accumulate rather quickly. And then the eastern part of the state just later on this evening as well. The whole state should have precipitation certainly by midnight, if not earlier. And the ending time, we've really haven't changed this too much. We just sort of dialed in the timing a little bit. Ending timing around midnight to early Monday morning across the west. By sunrise or a little bit earlier across central Virginia, and then Monday morning, around breakfast time or a little bit later on Monday morning, 8 to 10 a.m. And one thing I wanted to bring over really quick is just a model depiction of how this could turn out. Again, this is just a model depiction, but this is this evening around 8, 9 o'clock. You can see the snow rapidly coming into the across the state. This is by 10 o'clock, and again you can see the whole state is pretty much covered with snow. Maybe the very northern fringes of the northern Virginia may not see snow quite yet, but certainly by midnight, again, the whole state will be covered with snow. And notice how rapidly that freezing rain and sleet moves into the southern tier. This might be a little fast. I mean, this is by 1 or 2 a.m. That you see this freezing sleet in the orange and freezing rain in the purple moving up. But as you get into the day on Sunday, this is Sunday morning. Notice how rapidly that sleet and freezing rain moves northward. Most of the area south of 64 will have changed over to sleet and freezing rain by sometime by mid-morning tomorrow morning. Northern Virginia is going to stay snow much longer, obviously. And notice this green coming in. I mean, this is very uncertain here still where this this freezing line is going to set up. But we are now expecting rain to encompass areas, at least some of the areas, eastern part of Virginia, later tomorrow morning into tomorrow afternoon. And one thing I wanted to write home here is that there may be a little, especially over the east, maybe a little break in the precipitation. It's not going to totally end, but it may diminish some late tomorrow afternoon into tomorrow evening, early tomorrow evening. But there does look like there's going to be one more slug of precip that's going to come in, tomorrow evening into the early morning hours on Monday. That could be locally heavy. And again, if it's below freezing, it will be all freezing rain at that point. And then again, ending by Monday morning. Here's the, and you can look at this closer with Katie's briefing that she sent out, but just showing the mixed bag of precipitation across the state right through the day on Sunday, mostly changing from the snow early in the morning to most of the state having sleet or freezing rain in the afternoon, maybe mixed with snow across the far north. After the storm, though, we've got to prepare for dangerous wind chills right through the week. After we get by Monday, where temperatures may warm to close to freezing or slightly above, we're going to get entrenched into an Arctic air mass, and it will stay very cold pretty much right through the week. I mean, some of these wind chills are, Tuesday morning, we're expecting wind chills as low as perhaps 10 to 15 below. Especially across the western part of the state, but certainly below zero wind chills almost across the entire Commonwealth on Tuesday morning. And then again on Thursday and Friday mornings as well, very cold wind chills. Unfortunately, this Arctic air mass is not going to relent until we get into February. It's going to stay very cold next week. In fact, temperatures may struggle to rise above freezing much at all next week after this storm. So be prepared. That's going to emphasize that urgency with folks that lose power with the ice storm. Again, this just shows those temperatures struggling to get above freezing, and most likely won't for much of the state right through the week after Monday. And again, emphasize this again, below normal temperatures, really even into early part of February look possible. Maybe once we get into February, it's going to warm up some, but we are going to be quite entrenched into a very cold air mass right through the week and into early next week. So that's all I have. I'll be happy to raise your hand. I already see a few people have raised their hands, so I'll unmute you and be happy to take any questions.